Hello everybody. Today we are going to discuss about OTA. Why we need OTA and how to do it. OTA is over the air activation, and this is a way to make our customer happy, and this is a way to solve a problem. So what is OTA? Why OTA is solving my problem, and how I need to do to OTA my device. Let's continue. So what is OTA? Basically, we are in a business to selling customer intelligent devices. So the devices is like a hardware, and for intelligent devices, we also have software. If we have problem with the hardware, there's nothing we can do with the OTA, but if the problem exists in the software, we can upgrade the software with the method of over-the-air upgrade. So in our business, the software in the device is also called firmware. You can see the picture on the right side. We have Tuya Cloud and we have device which firmware is existed in devices. And we can upgrade the firmware from Tuya Cloud so your device will have a new brain and behave normally. So how to OTA my business? Firstly, the factory need to provide you the right firmware, and the firmware version must be get from the factory. So these guys are know exactly what is the problem of the existing firmware and what is being fixed in the new firmware. Let the factory give you the new version of the firmware and explain to you correctly before you go ahead. Secondly, you need to add a whitelist to your existing samples on your hand because it is quite risky to upgrade without testing. And when you add the whitelist, you are able to test the devices on your hand, and you will test the device, and you will have a cloud test. It's a unique function of Tuya. And after you get a test, you confirmed on the IoT platform, you can start a Grayscale up release, which is a fantastic function. I will present to you later. So firstly, we will go into our IT platform. This is my account. I make a device here. Go to development part. Go to product configuration. You will see the firmware update center. There are operating instructions, and unfortunately, it's not updated. So we will update it very soon. Okay, and there are setting page. You can click and to set the OTA for your device. So this is we will see that for these devices, we have two firmware. The first one is 1.0.0 and the second one is 1.0.3. I assume that you get the confirm from the factory what the firmware version need to update it for the devices, and so you can continue your work. Let me switch this into English so you can see it better. Okay, so click on the edit. First thing we need to set up is if what you want your end user to see for this firmware update. So you are going to set up these functions for your end user. The first one you need to choose is the upgrade method. We have three upgrade methods, which is notification upgrade, force upgrade, and detect upgrade. For notification upgrade, the end user will see a notification on the app, and they can choose to upgrade or not. And if they choose not, the app will not bother them again. The second one is force upgrade. When you set this option, the app user must update the firmware before they can use the device. It's not so user friendly, but sometimes you need this. The third method is app detect updates. That means when you updating this firmware, the end user will not have any notice on the app. But when they go into the device, they check the firmware version, they will notice that there will be a new firmware version available for his device. So he can choose to update it or not. We have another option, which is auto upgrade. Okay, so this feature means if I open the auto upgrade, and we also have a option on the app says I need this device to be auto upgraded. So if you open this option here and the app user enable this option as well, the device will be upgraded automatically. The app user do not need to choose. Okay, and all these things you have explanations. So if I'm not explaining this very clearly, you can see the notions as well. The second part you need to choose is the upgrade description. It's multilingual, so you can set, you can explain here to the end user why you need this firmware upgrade. And after you uh, fill in all the options, you can click confirm to finish the setup. And you can also check the language options to add more languages for you. So this is do before we set up the whitelist. And now I have sample on my hand. I need to verify uh, uh, the OTA version from my sample. There's one question here, why I need to verify my sample? Why cannot Tuya just test the firmware and so I can release the firmware directly? So you know that the firmware is tested before release, that's for sure. So we will guarantee that any firmware version you see here is correct and without problem. But sometimes the firmware have problem working with the hardware. For example, if the device is designed do not have enough power supply to the chip, and sometimes the device will behave, they will restart automatically in some situation. This is not a big problem, and the device restart and the end user never notice that, and we can live with that. But when you do OTA, the OT process draw a lot of power from the device, and sometimes if the device power supply is not enough, the OTA will not succeed. And this can only be tested on the sample in your hand. So we have a lot of other issues with the firmware cooperate with the hardware. For, just like if you have the new brain, that the new brain is powerful, is perfect, but sometimes it's not fit for the body. So you need to test it. Here, I suggest all of you, if your product is in mass production, you keep some samples in your hand for future use. Because if you, your devices have some issue and you decide to go to OTA, it is not useful even I ask factory to produce new samples, because the new samples probably will not have the same problem with the samples on your hand. Okay? So that's why we need to check uh, the, the new version on real samples on your hand. So let's start to add the whitelist. Click Equipment Whitelist Management, and you will see a different region on the top of the menu. Choose correct region, for example, China. Click Add, and you can put a Tuya account. And you click Send verification code. You will get a code. Click it, and you will have all devices of this PID in the whitelist. Another way to add the sample to the test list is to click the verify menu. So I click the verify menu, I entered the interface. I will see the devices listed. I can choose to add from the whitelist all the devices available to the user ID I add in, and I also can add directly by the device ID. So once this device is added, you can see the updated firmware on this specific device. For the other device, it's pretty safe. They will not see the update. So after you finish all, we entered part 3, verification for the OTA. Just take out your device and your mobile, upgrade the firmware, and test the device to see if everything works properly. And if there are any issues, come back to the factory, tell them, and ask them to solve the issues for you. And if they have problem, ask their support from Tuya. Okay? And if everything go okay, I recommend you to do another step further, because Tuya have very fantastic function of cloud testing. It is available on the device, and I will introduce you in a separate session because it is a little bit complicated, but I really recommend you to do the basic test. It will take no efforts. You just configure your device to the cloud test software, push a button, and it will test automatically for all the functions, basic functions this device have, and give you a result. For this, I think it's much safer for you to do the cloud test before go ahead. Okay. And after you verify the software, the firmware, you click verify that the upgrade is complete. I cannot verify this because it's a real device. It's a virtual fake devices. But if you have tested, you can verify and you can continue to the next step is release. Okay, you can publish this version. So for publishing, we have a wonderful function of great upskill, which I want to present to you only in document because I don't have real device on my hand. And I'm sorry that the English menu is not ready yet, so I have to explain this process use Chinese, and sorry for that. Uh, we see that product configuration, and we see various options of upgrading and documents, and we already update the firmware and test it. Uh, then we can go to publish the firmware. Okay, and when you publish, you can see this. When you click publish, you can have the release way of Grayscale publish. And you can set a certain percentage of your devices. For example, you have 1 million devices online, which is quite a huge number. And you don't want to risk to release the firmware to all of them. Let's say I want to publish the device for example, 5%. That means uh, 50K devices. And so Tuya will pick up randomly 5% of the devices and push the new firmware to them. And you are able to see the data. Which one is start to upgrade, which one is upgrading, which one is successful for upgrade, and for which one is failure for upgrade, and which one is the upgrade time is overdue. Okay, and you can see also a lot of other data analysis for you to understand the upgrade process. And at the same time, you are going to monitor the customer feedback for the customer service team to see if there are any issue during the upgrade. And if you have any issue, you can stop, you can suspend this upgrade at any time. And as the time goes by, you think it's pretty safe, no issue at all, you can start publish more devices. You can go as 10%, 30%, until you feel quite confident, so you can release this to all of your customers. You can also see the details of the upgrade devices for the device ID when it is updated, all the data you need to manage your customer and make your customer satisfied. And again, I go back to the to summarize how I obtain my devices. We understand that we need the firmware version and the functions from the factory in order to obtain my devices to make my customer happy. Once I get confirmed the OTA firmware, I need a sample on my hand because I don't want any problem happen to my end user. And I want to add the device on my hand to whitelist so I can upgrade only this device to the new firmware version and test it. And I can also do a cloud test which is Tuya special function, can test all the basic functions automatically without effort, and which is much safer for me to release the new firmware version. One thing I need to guarantee, even I tested and think the firmware not is okay without issue, there's still risk that some problems I do not find. So I want to use the Grayscale release function just to update certain percentage of the customer and to monitor the data of the upgrading and to also I monitor the feedbacks from the customer service team to make sure there's no customer complaint, the upgrading is successful, no issue. Maybe after 1 2 weeks I can release more devices to upgrade to the new version until it is 100% completed. So after that, my device get a new brain, it's function normally, and the customer will be happy. And I hope your customer will be all happy, you will be all happy, and so we will happy. Thank you.